Hey buddy, watch this.
Hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Heroes of the Storm is the game, and this is my first build for the new hero, Gul'dan. I'm calling it the Fel Gul'dan build. Now, before I say anything else, please know this is a day one build for me, which means I've only played it in a couple games that I've been able to get into so far. I don't know for sure that this is the best build out there, but in my experience, as a high-level Heroes of the Storm player, this is the build that makes the most sense to me. And after testing it out in a couple of games, it seems to be working thus far. So as you're starting to play Gul'dan, this is a good build to start from. But of course, watch all the right places like hotslogs.com to see how Gul'dan builds develop and see what seems to be working across the community, and follow the advice of other talented Heroes of the Storm players out there as Gul'dan continues to develop in the meta. All that said, my build is the Fel Gul'dan build, and this is a build essentially that focuses on two things: his Q ability Fel Flame and his heroic ability Horrify, and utilizing those as often and as well as possible. His Q is an extremely short cooldown damage ability that with this build is super good at just adding up lots of damage over time, so essentially poking enemy heroes, but also allowing you to bully in lanes pretty early in the game, just hitting your enemies a lot, clearing minions pretty effectively, and just constantly spamming this and casting this from a relatively safe distance, and just giving your opponent a lot of problems in the early game. And then as you transition into the late game, it just becomes a very valuable tool in team fights, just constantly sending waves into the foray and hitting people left and right, and utilizing some damage buffs that this build has access to. You can play Gul'dan very aggressively with this because we're going to have extra health. We're not going to be life tapping all that often, but just pumping out a lot of damage and causing quite a bit of chaos in the enemy team, particularly thanks to the ability Horrify, which is an AoE spell that fears anyone in its radius and allows you to just go crazy, disrupting the enemy team, sending them all over the battlefield, and constantly hitting them with your Q ability along the way as well. So this Gul'dan excels in teamfight scenarios, and also is pretty good in the early game as well. So a nice balance of wave clear and team fighting capabilities makes this what I think is the go-to Gul'dan build for me so far. So without further delay, let's go ahead and take a look at the build. At level 1, it's Pursuit of Flame. Level 4 is Consume Soul. Level 7, Hunger for Power. Level 10, Horrify. Level 13, Dark Bargain. Level 16, Rampant Hellfire. And level 20 is Haunt. So now let's take a look at those in more detail. Starting with level 1, Pursuit of Flame. Admittedly, I don't love any of the level 1 Gul'dan talents. They all feel a little weak to me, but this one does support the primary ability of this build, and really Gul'dan's primary ability, which is his Q. It's a quest talent after you hit enough heroes with your Q. The radius here for Pursuit of Flame will be increased, making it even easier to hit in the future, which is all good when you're casting Q a lot. The radius change isn't that significant, but being able to hit people even 10% more often can definitely make an impact in team fights, and it makes it so you don't have to aim quite as well and get more incidental hits as well. Plus, it just makes it a little better at killing minions from various angles, which can be important when you're trying to position yourself safely as Gul'dan. Up next is the level 4 talent, Consume Soul. This, you'll see here on our active talent bar, is a ranged active talent ability that allows you to instantly kill a minion, and that's pretty cool on its own, right? Minions aren't always easy to kill, and sometimes just being able to run by and pop off a couple minions and sending a Q in, and then finishing off one of the tougher soldiers, and you should use this on the soldiers, by the way. They do have the most health total of all the minions, so it makes the most sense to kill them instantly as opposed to others. But anyway, it also heals you for 800, so this is good in a laning scenario. Even beginning at level 4, it does give you an edge killing minions quicker, and the quicker you kill them right, even if it takes like 3 full Qs to kill a wave, you're still worth it to cast your Consume Soul occasionally to heal yourself, just as that constant sustain, using those charge cooldowns as quickly as possible, right? You want to constantly be using them so you're always staying as high of a health total as you can with a 0 mana cost ability, but also killing a minion just a little bit sooner, even if it was going to die to your area of effect anyway, means that your minions get a slight advantage a little bit faster. So it can make your minion wave a little stronger and push a little harder, and maybe keep an extra soldier alive or keep the wizard alive, reducing the likelihood that your opponent is able to pick up that regen globe. So some secondary advantages to consume soul on top of just the heal, which of course is very good in its own right, because you will need to life tap to use your Q and build those stacks from your level 1 talent. Up next, level 7 is Hunger for Power. You increase your ability power by 15%, but reduce healing received from allies by 25%. Now that might seem sort of punishing, admittedly, because you do need to receive heals as Gul'dan. But the way this build works, we already have a heal with Consume Soul, so this makes it a little less needy as far as heals are concerned. Right, we have one way to heal. We also, of course, have our W and our base kit that is a heal. So there's 2 mechanisms to heal yourself already. Plus, you don't know yet at level 7, but at level 13, we're going to be getting the talent Dark Bargain, which increases your level 20 health from 3,600 to 4,500, which is such a significant increase that you essentially have 900 or almost 1,000 extra health to work with anyway. So you don't need as much healing just because you will have that much more health. Now, arguably, you'd say, wait a minute, if you have more health, you need more healing. Sort of, that's true in the long run, but in the scheme of like a single team fight, you're basically starting with an extra 900 health heal to begin with, so it reduces the immediate impact or the immediacy of the need of a heal thanks to Dark Bargain. So in other words, Hunger for Power's downside isn't quite as punishing in this build when we have the extra health, when we have the extra heal. Plus the upside, the increased ability power, 15%, that's huge. 15% is a huge buff on ability, so it makes your Q that much more devastating every time that you do hit it. So pretty good trade there. Now, even though this says ability power, my testing has indicated that Drain Life's heal does not actually increase, only its damage increases, which is somewhat inconsistent, I believe, with other ability power texts on heroes like Lily, for instance. So I don't know if that's an oversight or an intentional design, but either way, Hunger for Power still makes a lot of sense. At level 10 is what in my opinion, is far and away the best heroic ability for Gul'dan, and arguably, so far, maybe one of the best heroic abilities in the entire game. It's Horrify. It's an 80-second cooldown, which is really not that long for a heroic that is this powerful. After a short delay, as we saw earlier, you deal a little bit of damage, but primarily you fear enemy heroes in the area for what is normally 2 seconds, but this actually increases it by 1 second to make it 3 seconds. So just a ridiculous crowd control ability, and you can actually control the direction that the opponents move. If you cast this on the far side, he's going to move up. If you cast it on the left, he's going to move right. We kind of did it poorly there, but if you cast it on the left, he's going to move right. If you cast it on the bottom, he's going to move up. He was already moving, so it didn't work that time. I keep casting it a little too fast, but you get the idea. You can actually control where people move if you aim this well, so a lot of crowd control. They're also feared, so they're not doing stuff. It's essentially a silence in essence. Like Sylvanas is heroic, but 10 times better, easier to aim, easier to cast, and more impactful from a crowd control standpoint. So just a ridiculous heroic ability in every way. It makes you a huge threat in a team fight at any given point. And the radius is not that small, and the range is reasonable as well. So all in all, just an amazing ability. Okay, so let's move on to the level 16 talent, Dark Bargain. As I already mentioned, with this one, your maximum health is permanently increased by 25%. But there is a downside. Your death respawn seconds. So I like this ability because it allows it's just makes you out of the fight for so long. How could you possibly deal with that? But my counter to that argument is that having 25% extra health makes you so much less likely to die in the first place that, yeah, when you do, it's a little bit more punishing, but it's so much more unlikely that it's a pretty fair trade-off. Plus, if you're already dying, in games where you're dying, you're probably already losing. Things are already going poorly. And that's especially true if you're dying with an extra 1,000 health. So you're really getting beat. You have that much extra health and you're still losing fights that hard. That's a sign that the game is probably not in your favor, and it's very likely going to lead to a loss. The 25% extra health, on the other hand, can really help you in games that are still very even and very close, and in games that you're winning. So in other words, there are three kinds of games. Games you're losing, games that are even, and games that you're winning. And this talent, in my opinion, helps you in 2 out of 3 of those situations, particularly in the most important one, which is undecided games that are still even. So if Dark Bargain gives you advantages in those close games, it can help you win additional games. And it doesn't really make you lose any extra games you were already going to lose in the first place. So in other words, there's a lot more upside here than there is downside. Moving on to level 16, there's also Rampant Hellfire. Fel Flame's damage is increased by 6% for 5 seconds when hitting an enemy hero. This can stack up to 5 times. So again, this is a buff to our Q that just makes it do even more damage. And there's a nice new little indicator here when you select this talent. If you hit an enemy hero, you'll get a little charge, as you can see, and it tells you the number of times that this is stacking. And if you watch the numbers over here, they go up every time, basically by about 30 damage each time you hit, all the way up to 651 at 5 stacks. So in the middle of a team fight, it's not that ridiculous to get a few stacks and keep them rolling. This ability does have a 1.5 second cooldown. It's very short, so you can spam it. And you do have 5 seconds, right, to reactivate and keep those stacks going. So it still works if you switch targets, right? If there's a new target, you're still at 5 stacks. So it's not ridiculous to see this hit 5, and regularly we'll hit 1 or 2. And even then, you're already getting a nice benefit to the damage on what is your most important ability. So pretty cool. I think it's very powerful. Also, the 5 seconds is just enough leeway that you can sneak in a W, right? You can actually get the W off and still Q and reactivate your charges. So it works well with your kit and is a pretty powerful increase to your key ability. So I like Rampant Hellfire a lot in this build. And then finally, this shouldn't come as any surprise given how much I talked up Horrify as a heroic. We are going to increase its effectiveness. This makes the duration last for an additional second, which is just absurd because it was already enough. And this just, look how far a person will run while horrified. You can move them halfway across the screen. That's crazy. Not only that, though, Haunt also makes them vulnerable, so they take an additional 25% damage. So you could hit 3 or 4 enemy heroes with this. They're all taking additional damage. You're spamming them with your Q, even though we missed it there. So look how much damage our Q can do while it's hitting for well over 700 while... I'm bad at aiming it, clearly, but ready for 800 now with full stacks and a Horrify vulnerability up. So pretty crazy how much you can pump out when Horrify upgraded is working and your Q is working. You can really cause a lot of chaos and hit people pretty hard in a team fight. Even though Gul'dan's not really a burst damage dealer, he's really more of a sustain damage dealer. You can sure do some burst when all these things are working together. So there you have it. That's my Fel Gul'dan build. Again, day 1 build, so try it out, see if it works for you. Keep an eye on Gul'dan talents across the web as people learn to play him a little better, including myself. But for now, this build seems to make a lot of sense and works pretty well early on the public test realm. That's Pursuit of Flame, Consume Soul, Hunger for Power, Horrify, Dark Bargain, Rampant Hellfire, and then finally Haunt. Gul'dan's so much fun to play, particularly this heroic ability is crazy to watch. So I definitely encourage you to give him a try if you're thinking about adding a new hero to your roster. They don't get any bigger or more famous or more important than Gul'dan, so it's pretty exciting to finally see him in the Nexus. Thanks so much for watching, And until next time, game on.